Hi, everyone.
Hello, Professor Malak.
Hi, good
Nice to
morning.
see you. Good morning, good afternoon. Oh yeah, it's morning for you, right? 7 a.m.
7, yeah.
يعطيك العافية.
Okay.
We're just going to give it a couple of minutes before we get started.
Okay. Are we on air?
Yes, we are. Dictora Wala, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We're on air. We're just giving it another minute before we get started, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I haven't had a chance to meet the speakers, but I can see them here. Have you had the opportunity to speak, Luma, with the speakers beforehand?
Well, it's difficult to hear you.
As much as possible.
Okay.
We
Can you hear me
change
okay?
if you...
الصوت واضح؟
في
واضح؟
شوية echo. Yeah.
Very clear.
Very clear. Thank you, Dr. Hani. That's reassuring.
All right. I think we've got people joined in. We're already 2 minutes into the hour, so we're going to get started, if that's okay with all of you.
Sure.
Perfect. Inshallah, everybody can hear me well. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to you all. My name is Luma Al-Turk and I lead the Immunology Inflammation Division for Pfizer in Saudi. And before we get started, I really want to thank each and every one of you for joining us on the second session, actually, out of the 3 that we are hosting as Pfizer with the Arab International Women's Forum, which is a London-based international development organization that promotes women's leadership through education, entrepreneurship, and employability in the Arab world and beyond. This series that we're currently in is called the DEI by Design, or the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion by Design. And it's a webinar series with the intention to explore perspectives, challenges, and opportunities in Saudi Arabia, inviting exemplary women leaders in pharma and health to discuss key aspects of women's progression and opportunities in this sector. Today's session will be focused on building community, exploring ways that Saudi women leaders in health, aspiring and established leaders, can grow their networks, engage meaningfully with mentorship, and develop the confidence and networks to develop in their careers and blaze a vital pathway for the younger generations to come. We will be following up today's panel session with a final session, inshallah, in the end of October, which is going to be focused on building capacity, which will have more of a focus on continuing professional development, executive education, and positioning oneself for promotion and progression within careers in the health sciences in Saudi Arabia. After the third session, we're going to have a report and recommendation paper that will be due in January 2025 from our office in Riyadh, and everybody attending today will automatically receive an invitation to join us in the final session. Now, to get us started, I am extremely delighted to introduce Dictora Wala Alami. She's the Vice Chair of the AIWF and is the Global Influenza Lead for us in Pfizer. And to be very honest, she's one of my role models, so it gives me a lot of pleasure doing this. And to say a few words on behalf of the AIWF and Pfizer. But let me introduce her just a little bit. Dictora Wala has over 20 years of experience, 18 of which are in Pfizer. She's currently, as mentioned, the Global Influenza Lead for Pfizer based out of Madrid. Prior to her current role, she's held various leadership positions across Africa and Middle East, including being the former African Middle East chair for Pfizer Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council, leading Pfizer's efforts to champion key initiatives that aim to promote diversity and inclusion in the region. Dictora Wala is the vice chair of the Arab International Women's Forum and sits on the board of a number of other regional organizations. Dictora Wala, always a pleasure to have you with us, and off to you for the opening statements.
Thank you, Luma. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And I'm truly humbled and honored to be with all of you today and to be, speak alongside esteemed speakers that we have today, even if I have to apologize in advance for not being able to stay throughout the discussion for today. But it's a great honor and pleasure for me personally to be with you today, first as an Arab woman, leader in business, wife, mother, sister, friend, that believes in the power that women can bring to the workplace and to the society in general, and a strong believer in how their impact can be translated into innovation, advancement, progress, and prosperity. I feel privileged to be here with you for the second session from this series as the global chair, as Luma said, of Pfizer Women Resource Group, but also as the vice chair of Arab International Women Forum. And so before we get started, I wanted to seize that opportunity and really extend my sincere thanks to the speakers today, but also to Pfizer Saudi, Luma, the entire diversity, equity, inclusion, and all the leaders that are supporting this initiative, and for embarking on this inspiring journey that I'm sure will not only inspiring, but I'm sure will also be, impactful in seeing the progress that Saudi in general, beyond Pfizer, is sponsoring and aiming to see women contributing even more to the society, and the progress that has been made to date is something we all have to acknowledge and be proud of. A few words about Pfizer and AIWF. Luma said a few words about the Arab International Women Forum, but the partnership with Pfizer has been long-standing and spanning for over 10 years across the region. And we have proudly collaborated between Pfizer and AIWF on multiple initiatives that have, proven to be impactful, and at least to create forums and opportunities for exchanging between the Arab world and the international community. And for me personally, all the work that I do in AIWF focuses on women empowerment, and to do exactly, what we've been doing and what I'm sure will happen, today as well, which is creating the space for exchanging best practices, oftentimes within the Arab world, but it happens as well between the Arab world and the international communities, learning about what is it that has worked, somewhere else, but grounding ourselves on the need that are specific to the region, taking pride of the culture, the uniqueness. So we need to be inspired globally, but to make sure that we tailor and adapt the solutions locally, because that's the best way for the progress to happen. And so I have witnessed many forums and collaborations, targeted initiatives, not only raise awareness, but drive meaningful progress. And I'm confident that this type of forum will contribute to that. One of my mottos in life in general, but in this space in particular, when we speak about women empowerment and gender equity, is we rise by lifting others. And the reason for that is I have benefited from many women that used to live by this motto, but I want to pay back and do the same for all women around me. And that speaks to the value of community. And that speaks to the value of what we will be discussing today, which is the power of mentorship, the power of sponsorship. But as a woman, as a mother, and as a wife, I also would like to maybe stretch the thinking of today to how women that aspire to be leaders, to drive further progress and impact in the society, to work or through any other venue, will also need to tap into communities to be able to juggle effectively life responsibilities and work. So all this to say, I'm sure this discussion today will be important. Communities are, the best way to learn, grow, and get inspired, but also pay back. And I really look forward to the discussion today to learn more about how the panel thinks about, these initiatives with the Saudi context, but also what is it that we can be inspired from as we think about the communities that have flourished in other parts of the world. So Luma, thank you for leading the conversation and moderating it today, and looking forward to the discussion.
Dr. Wala, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your words. And I'm sure not everybody wants to hear from me, but from the panelists. But I do need to take a few more minutes to go through the biographies of our panelists today. And then I promise I'll hand it over to them to start the talk. Just another 5 minutes with me. So as mentioned, before handing it over, I am really honored and I'm secretly praying that I do enough justice, okay, to introduce our panel speakers and share some of their inspirational bios. So I would really like to give a warm welcome to each and every person with us today. Professor Sawal Hazza, a trailblazing figure in both the medical and technological fields, is a senior advisor to the president of the King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology, a distinguished clinical professor and director of ophthalmology at the College of Medicine, Faisal University. She's a senior consultant of ophthalmology and genetics and a member of the board of trustees at the King Abdulaziz University. She was elected as an executive member of the International Council of Ophthalmology and has previously served as senior advisor to Saudi Ministry of Health and also former clinical professor of ophthalmology at Johns Hopkins University and the University of Southern California. Adding to her impressive almost 40 years career, she's also currently the CEO and founder of the company Sedem Tech, a pioneering and award-winning digital health startup utilizing advanced automated retinal image analysis for diagnosing chronic illnesses, which really is disrupting the healthcare or the digital health industry into an innovative, efficient, and sustainable health system, making it accessible to all. And while that, shaping Saudi Arabia as a pioneer in digital health transformation and making the Saudi innovations feasible, not only in Saudi, but in the region and beyond. With influence extending beyond healthcare and technology, Forbes International magazine named Professor Al-Hazza as the Arab Woman of the Year and the most powerful Arab woman for the year 2005, among many other awards. Through a royal decree, she was one of the first females in the Saudi Arabia's Al Shura Parliamentary Council as part of the Saudi Formal Advisory Board. Professor Al-Hazza is one of the most influential Saudi Arab women personalities and a female pioneer to achieve international success academically, professionally, politically, as an active advocate and continuously empowering Saudi women. Lovely to have you with us today, and thank you so much for accepting the offer to be with us. Professor Malak Thaqafi, thank you so much for being with us as well. She's a revolutionizing and highly accomplished physician, scientist, entrepreneur, and strategic expert specializing in biotechnology, health, and genomics. She's a professor and director of neuropathology division and fellowship program at the Emory University School of Medicine. Professor Thaqafi has published over 140 scientific papers, contributed to the World Health Organization tumor classification books, and served on various advisory boards and leadership programs. She has held significant roles at institutions such as the King Fahd Medical City and King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. She's had a remarkable career, which was further cemented having founded 2 companies in genetic technologies and has won several prestigious awards. She holds advanced degrees, including 4 American board certifications, completed residency at Georgetown University and fellowships at UCSF and Harvard. She also holds an MBA from Johns Hopkins and various executive certificates from Harvard University. Professor Thaqafi has been recognized as one of the most influential figures in her field and has received multiple awards for her contributions to science and technology. But I don't think her accomplishments stop there. Her strive and dedication is crystal clear towards women empowerment, particularly in promoting female researchers, students, and trainees, with experiences being shared in several opinion articles focusing on women researchers and addressing issues such as stereotyping and discrimination. Last but not least, my colleague and a human being that I truly look up to, Dr. Hani Al-Hashmi, our Senior Medical Director, Medical Affairs for Pfizer Saudi. Dr. Al-Hashmi is a Senior Medical Director with us in Pfizer Saudi and previously led the Oncology Center at King Fahd Specialist Hospital in Dammam. and the National Strategy for Cancer Care and Specialized Oncology Services at the Ministry of Health. He has also worked on several national committees at the level of the Ministry of Health and the Saudi Health Council. Dr. Al-Hashmi completed his undergraduate studies in medical technology at King Abdulaziz University in 1999, and then pursued his medical education at McMaster University in Canada, where he graduated with an MD degree in 2003. He received his postgraduate training in internal medicine at University of Western Ontario and hematology fellowship at McMaster University, medical oncology and bone marrow transplantation fellowship at University of Calgary, Canada. He holds an executive master's in health administration from University of Alabama at Birmingham, and is certified by the Global Medicines Development Professionals Academy at King's College London. Dr. Hani is also the chair of our DICO Council in Pfizer Saudi and champions key initiatives that aim to promote diversity and inclusion, and is extremely keen in the progression of our Saudi talent within Saudi Arabia, but also beyond. Dr. Hani, it's personally my honor to work with you every day, and thank you for being with us. And that sums up my opening remarks and my introductions. I hope I've done justice to you all. It's really our honor to have you with us. And now we're going to go through the opening remarks with our panelists, starting with Professor Salwa. If you can just give us a few words on building community, how might we nurture women's leadership in health in Saudi Arabia through increased networking, role modeling, recognition, and visibility.
Great, and you've given me 5 minutes, correct?
Yes, I
do.
Yes.
Because I tend to overtalk.
No.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen. As a surgeon, by trade, that's where I hail from, ophthalmologist, researcher, academician, and politician for the last 40 years, in the most prestigious hospital, in which 25 years of that, I ran the Department of Ophthalmology as a chairman. And by the way, I am a wife and a mother to 3 children for the last 37 years. I completed 37 years in July. Yay, from that point. So anyways, I opted really to embark on this unprecedented journey by leaving, can you imagine, by leaving my well-established career? I mean, in simple words, I left my comfort zone. Now, believe me, it isn't easy when you're at my age. When you're younger, you can go around, but when you're at my age, things get a little more difficult. And I can tell you, ever since then, it's been a roller coaster ride. And this roller coaster ride has not stopped. And I don't think it's going to stop for the next 10 years or so. So I founded SEDEM in 2019. What is it? Just in simple terms, it's an AI-driven platform. It's to screen and diagnose for chronic diseases with emphasis on diabetes, meaning I don't have to be there on site or remotely. It's not telemedicine. Don't mix those together. So what I do is I oversee the research and development of the AI technology for analyzing retinal. When we say retina, we use these fancy words, ophthalmology, meaning eyes, retina. All it means, you have your brain. We all know it. The retina is just the back part of the eye, which is the brain. So when you hear retina, it's actually the brain of the eye. So what do? I analyze them because I've got all this expertise for detecting these early signs of various diseases, in particular diabetes. So what was my turning point? People ask me, what was your trigger? What was your spark? This is why. Here I am in an established career and I leave it. There has to be a reason. So why? I kept challenging myself and I kept asking myself this question: how can I transfer my 35 years of retinal imaging? That's all I did, is just the retina expertise. How can I package it and then just give it to the community outside these high walls that I was in and at the King Faisal Specialist Hospital? People had to wait forever. The bureaucracy, the red tape to be able to see Salwa al-Hazza at the King Faisal. And I kept asking myself, how can I reach these underserved patients in their hometown? Why do they have to leave their hometown and travel to Riyadh, Jeddah, Dammam, to the major cities? And how can I get to them in the early stages? That was my trigger. Why? I want to make them live a life of quality. What's the use of living and you're sick? I wanted to improve. So I started my journey. Oh my God, exploring how can AI enhance this diagnostic accuracy? which was missed by the traditional. There was so much missing. Remember, this was before the era of COVID, all right? Before the era of COVID. Remember when someone would say AI? That was straight. What's AI? No one knew. We were illiterate about anything called. So guess what I did? I went and I pursued my master's in medical management at the University of Southern California. And this was in my mid-50s. It's never late. My mother till this day says, Hal bint nawiyatin shiga. My daughter is always looking for work. She has her doctor's degree. Why is she going to her master's? She could never comprehend it. But anyways, I had this idea, but guess what? People thought I was a wacko. No one opened the doors for me. My own hospital. Who do you think embraced me? Who do you think embraced me? I always wear it. NEOM. My God, they were my research and development, where everyone else closed their doors. And what did NEOM always say? Reach for the stars and land on the moon. Wow, never come to Earth. And that's where it is. So believe me, this in turn facilitated my understanding of the global health market. It helped me better situate Saudi Arabia in this disruptive digital market. So people say, why did you choose diabetes as your first solution? Acknowledge that diabetes is a silent global pandemic. I witnessed the critical challenges faced by the diabetic patients when they would come to me. And again, the specialized care was outpacing the availability. There was not enough of us to go to this. Why? Because it is a global pandemic. I used to say to His Excellency, everyone is running towards COVID. But listen, we have a silent pandemic that kills 3 times as much as the COVID. Please look at it, turn to it. So I knew that I had to do a solution. I knew this was the time. So what did I do? I said, I'm going to envision a solution that will cut long patient queues. I suffered from that. Travel, referral, reduce the mortality, improve the patient care. That was so important. But what was the most important thing to me? Democratize. Make it available for everybody. I'm sorry, access. Why should a VIP get better care than a simple cleaner? Why not make it access? I mean, look at this. You have illiterate people that don't even know how to read and write, but they have a phone. Why? You made it cheap and you gave it to them. That's what healthcare is about. So Saddam was born. Why? To face this challenge of diabetes and be another channel in the kingdom to really forge and transform the healthcare. So I also do generative AI. We're not going to go into that. LLMs, LMM. We're not going to even go into that. We're actually presenting 2 papers at the IEE, which is the World Hub. Saudi Arabia is actually going to be presenting 2 papers. But anyways, I integrate these AI solutions. That's what I do in the healthcare system. I enable physicians in the healthcare to provide more accurate diagnoses. Isn't that what we're all looking for? So what's my goal? Is to use the power of AI in the medical care for 2 things. Just keep that in mind. Accessibility. 1, the silent conditions with no symptoms that really require the early management, which we as human beings cannot do to prevent the severe outcome. Most important to me is to deliver this healthcare or this technology without Salwa al-Hazza being there to the underserved communities where specialized care should not be a dream for them, but it should be a reality. Thank you.
يعطيك ألف عافية Professor Salwa. This was really inspiring. And we'll get back to you once we get to the panel Q&A questions. Professor Malak, lovely to see you. I know it's really early for you. I
tell you sorry if I'm sleepy.
لا بالعكس تنينين ما شاء الله عليك. So if you could please give us a few words on or your thoughts around the same topic, which is building community. How can we nurture women leadership? Lovely to hear from you, and thank you so much for being here so early.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lama. Thank you, Dr. Ola, and everybody, and thank you for having me today. I'm a storyteller. I hope you will notice that, Loma, and I like to write this, and I like to say it because I think we are the humor. We're a storyteller, and we learn from the stories. So let me begin by sharing a bit about my journey. And it's a kind of unique journey. The reason I want to share it because this journey has shaped really by the challenges I faced early on from my childhood and the value I carried with me throughout my life, my career, etc. I was born with rare genetic disorders, and this experience has taught me very early on to be resilient and to self-accept myself. And this will come later handy in life. This growing up, I have encountered a long and uncertain diagnostic process because just for those who are in the chat who's not aware, there is people with genetic disorders or rare diseases in general. And in fact, there are over 250 million people around the world born with rare diseases, 80% of them caused by genetics. Their genetic odyssey takes, we call it odyssey because it takes almost an average 4 to 8 years, and some of them can take a lifetime to find an answer to what's wrong with them. This is what, as you can see, inspired me from very early on, and it shaped my understanding of a patient experience. I unfolded my desire to pursue a career in medicine, and later on, research came. So allow me, Lama, if it's okay with you, and from the attendee today to highlight some important names in my life, because I think it really, after looking backward, it's not about me. It's about all these people, especially women, who shaped my life along the journey. Start, of course, with my mother. At the time when she was 19-year-old and she had her first child, who was a sick child, where everybody told her she's okay, or have a second healthy child, or don't go around the kidney. She never stopped. And this woman, she never went to medical school. Nobody in the family went to the medical school. She did not know what's going on. That was in the 80s. You can imagine her journey and her curiosity and her belief on me, even when I was a very little child who absolutely I don't know what's going on. Her journey ended by her to London to find an answer for diagnosis. And that's another reason, probably you can imagine why I inspired to be a diagnostician at very early on, because I knew the key for any health issue is to find the right diagnosis. And that's where I started my journey as a diagnostician, as an uninspired pathologist. Her unwavering determination, and her name is Kinam Sibai, became a foundation to drive my succeed along the journey. Well, moving forward, returning back to the kingdom, again, I was fortunate to meet another inspiring, influential woman very early on, when at the age of 5, at King Faisal, Dr. Nadia Aoun al-Soqati. This name is very familiar for many, many pediatricians, many trainees, many families, many patients in the Arab world and beyond. She dedicated her 50 years career only to her patient. And you can say, as a little child, right, going to the clinic from Mecca City to Riyadh every 3 months, seeing her leading a group of physician trainee, families come from around the country and the nearby countries to see her. This was very inspiring and influential figure too. And I was fortunate to be with her very early on to learn from her, and again, to have the commitment to patient care and research, which once again, influenced my decision to pursue a career in medicine. Now, moving forward, after graduating from medical school, I thought to find mentors to guide me to the rest of my journey. So here it come when I came out to America again, and I was really kind of cherry picking who I wanted to be with and what I want to learn from each one of them. And allow me to share 4 names. Dr. Mary Sadawi at Georgetown, the woman who showed me how important to have the word in a very busy room, sorry, Dr. Hani, mainly men in the room, the tumor board room, and how her word was the final word to make the correct diagnosis and inspire and to help to guide the very complicated therapeutic option for oncology patients. And then, as the second person I wanted to highlight is Dr. Rebecca Folkers. Rebecca Folkers was my mentor in Boston. And this woman, I like to call her the lady boss. She was as little as me. By the way, I'm a 4'11". I'm so tiny. And she was as little as me. But she was so powerful. And she knew everything about neuroscience, which made me wondering, oh, wow, what this woman doesn't know. And she never stopped. She switched career when she was 57 years old to another institution after staying 30 years at Harvard to start again and again and again. Third person, Keith Ligon. There is also men in my journey who inspired me. Keith Liggins showed me the power of how we can, from daily practice, come up with innovative solutions, innovative idea, and to translate them to clinical practice and to come onto the research project. And the fourth person is Sandro Santagata, which again, he reinventing himself day and a day and a day when it comes to career option. And he's never shy from mentioning all of his women in his life in every single talks I've been to his. So these four people, just to show you how it was important for me, the mentorship in my career. Moving forward, I decided to come back to the kingdom and back in late 2015 until 2022. Well, at that time, we want to establish a foundation of a genomic medicine there. And this was presented by itself with a unique set of challenges. And also, we wanted to build a research team in the region. And at the time, there was a lot of obstacles. And due to some cultural restriction and limited resources, we formed all-female team. And this is quickly highlighted to me, the pervasive self-doubt that many talented women face. The imposter syndrome we face. We just don't believe in ourselves. And I've noticed, I witnessed this with my trainee, my mentee, day after day. And we had to make a fight to make it work. And in fact, this experience showed to me how important, again, the mentorship and empowerment is, but not limited to our lab, the whole of our lab. We were able to overcome them by actually, first of all, by understanding that we're facing them, and we have to come up with solution to overcoming them. So what we did over the years with them, that we worked with them at one-to-one level to understand what their needs and what they want. But I also learned the power of writing up and power of speak up. As I said, this experience took me to know another things about me that I didn't know. I also I'm always good in what I do in my daily life, working with, molecular stuff, genetic stuff, whatever. This is the thing I do for my life. But I realized that by sharing our thought to the rest of the world is extremely, extremely powerful tool that we should have it as and going today to the theme of nourishing women, right? And in Saudi Arabia, and what we need to do based on from the journey I shared. I believe there is really, as you said, 4 areas that we should focus on it when it comes to build community and foster women leadership: networking, role modeling, recognition, and visibility, as you mentioned. But how we can do it with networking? I think being intentional is very important. And that's something I learned very early on, to be an intentional leader, to know exactly what you want and to try to work it out. It's not easy. I mean, it has a lot of hiccups, a lot of bumps, and it's never easy. But I think that would make it very interesting. At the time, again, going back when I was a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old child, I was so upset why it's only me who was sick, none of my other siblings. Why it's only me? Now, looking backward, if it wasn't that the reason, and it wasn't that the challenge, I would never be who I am today. Same apply to when we come to build this woman resilience and self-acceptance to themselves and empower them. You really need to create a space where women can collaborate and exchange ideas. And I think we did that. And my journey and my tenure in Saudi was very short, like 6.5 years. But I'm very proud of what we achieved together, and to see many of them in a leadership position in Saudi, in industry, in places. Sorry, they're not in Pfizer, but they're in AstraZeneca, they're in Illumina, they're in different places. And some of them even went to universities in the world, and nobody went to it from Saudi Arabia, male or female, before them. So this is, for me, this is very nourishing. Again, how it came, building this safe space and exchange idea and work each issue and one step by the time. Second, role modeling. And as I said, there is a lot of people in my life, and it doesn't have to be people only we met in the hospital or people in the university. There is people, just simple people, sometimes day-to-day people that you learn something of them. So I understand the power of role modeling, and it's not a one person or a person we see in the newspaper, on the news. It actually, somebody can work with you, or somebody work maybe under you, that inspire you by simple act or action and teach you through this to the journey of life. And third thing, in recognition, as you said, I think it's important to create visibility for women, and this is really there is different channel. I mean, we think we came a long way by acknowledging the achievement of women, especially when it comes in research and clinical practice in the kingdom and in the Arab world. But I think it's still not enough. We're still focusing in certain in a similar names, but we're not really exploring to beyond there. And I think, at least from my meeting with the students here and from the different platforms I've been to, I think there is some sort of disappointment that we're not doing enough when it comes to exposure and to give opportunities. And then finally is the visibilities. I think organizations need to make it clear that women are visible when it comes to decision-making spaces. More, you have to lean in, and we have to show that we are as important in the decision-making and as any other person. Of course, I'm not saying everybody, you have to be qualified, you have to earn it really to get into this thing. But I think we also have to be intentional sometimes, having some quota of women when it comes to decision-making and to the boardroom. And then finally, I hope I showed you that if we want to build a community that nurture women leadership in health or in any other field, it really requires a multifaceted approach. It's not one approach or one way to do it. There is different way to do it. Mentorship, public recognition, feasibility, etc. All of these are a venue to do it. And I hope, like showing you that from my own journey, from being a very powerless child who has absolutely doesn't know what's going on, to be I'm happy where I am today, and to be leading a major department and being in one of the world's best institutions. Again, I always still like to say, I went to public school. I had no mentors. Nobody in my family was a doctor. But what I see today taught me what my mom taught me was young, self-acceptance and resilience. With this too, you can get anywhere. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was really, really inspiring. I'm not sure how many times I had goosebumps as both of you were speaking. So I think Louise from AIWF had shared a few links. I strongly suggest those that are on the call to go through the links, the articles that Professor Malak had written. I think I had a tear at some point, and there's a specific video for Professor Salwa. If you guys see it, and there's a statement, I'm not going to share it, but I think if you can go to that video and hear it, as a woman, it really got to my heart, and it's something that we should all aspire to do and be. So thank you, Professor Malak, thank you, Professor Salwa. Dr. Hani, opening remarks قبل أن نروح على Q&A.
طيب الله يديكم العافية. This is impressive. يعني just being across and listening to Professor Salwa and Professor Malak, who I had the privilege of actually knowing her while she was here in Saudi, and we worked together. It's something nobody can describe. So the passion that I can see in Dr. Salwa talks, so she's full of energy despite leaving her comfort zone. Full of energy. I know that the setbacks is actually people are too worried about, and leaving the comfort zone is not everybody's any best cup of tea, but definitely is something that if the Professor Salwa says that it's actually something that she did and she enjoyed doing, leaving a very well-established career, it's something for everybody to listen to and actually take the lesson out of that. From Professor Malak, and I'm sure to say anything. I know you from a close distance, so it has been a pleasure working with you, and knowing the stories that you told. I've heard it before. It's very touching, and where you're getting with this to the next level is something that everybody should be aspiring toward. Luma, by the way, thank you very much for putting me in this panel. I was really happy to be part of the leadership kind of forum for women anywhere in the world, but you brought me to Arab International Women Forum, and thank you for doing that. And special thanks for selecting this specific topic. Creating community. This is something that people probably don't really address enough. And it goes by experience. People actually who are more resilient and more experienced in life probably will be able to reach certain places, but without the community, this is actually going to be very difficult. In my head, I actually, when I think about building community, there is actually certain principle that I have. that I actually probably maybe I actually will share at a certain point during the discussion. But definitely one of the most important things, one of the very important things is actually knowing that it doesn't happen overnight. And if you ask Professor Selwa and if you ask Professor Malak, they can tell you this. It's not something that you sleep in and the next morning things will be changing. It's actually resilience and hard work that takes you wherever you should, where you aspire to. So don't actually stop at the very first bump, because they can tell you for sure they have seen many before they reach actually the first successful story. So that's very important. I cannot actually emphasize enough on actually understanding this, because a lot of people around us, they're very short kind of tolerance and resilience need to be built for everybody. And no matter how we actually express resilience, people don't actually get it. They need actually to understand people don't get to the next level because of smartness or book smart or street smart. It's actually the resilience, the hard work that you put together will take it to the next level. Thank you very much, Luma. I'll be very interested to hear more about the question and answer. Definitely listening to Professor Selwa and my dear colleague, Professor Malak, will be very, very, very interesting. And this is what I'm looking for today as an ally. And by the way, Malak, I'm very happy that you mentioned Keir, because the community cannot be built without actually having a male member supporting female members as well. So that's something that we probably will bring in during the discussion.
We complement each other. We're not competing. Some people
100%.
compete. It's not a competition, it's complementation.
100%. 100%.
And I always say, Dr. Hashim, you know, they always say behind every great man, behind every successful man is a woman. I always say behind every successful woman is a great man. So we're always going to give you the credit. Always.
I didn't tell you the story, but definitely behind my success, a lot of women. So starting from a great mother who raised me, although she didn't go to school to the high degree of school, but I am who I am because of her. And definitely very lovely supportive wife. So she took me through she actually, if I'm going to say something, she put up with me a lot to be able to actually to take me to this level. I supported her as well. She's a successful director in the Saudi Post Logistics, but the thing that needs to be said, it's actually a balance of the community. Both have to support each other. Both have the same actually goals and vision. Definitely in Saudi Arabia, Vision 2030 is very clear. Vibrant society. Society is actually male and female. So really, both has to work together for actually to thrive our economy to get to the next level that everybody is aspiring to. To the question and answer, I'm sorry, Luma took some of your time.
لا بالعكس Dr. Hani, and I want to say something. So yesterday I was having a quick chat with Dr. Hani just to make sure that he's all set. And we went through the conversation, and he looks at me, he's like, there's something really important. You're here because you deserve to be here, right? There is no discrimination. You've earned your place. It's not because you're a woman or not a woman. You're here because, and he was saying it with so much passion. I believed it, right? Even if I don't or I do, it doesn't matter. But what he was saying was so convincing. Dr. Hani, يعطيك ألف عافية. Thank you so much for your opening remarks. And I'm going to go straight into the Q&A. Professor Malak, بس لأنك قاعدة من الساعة 7, I'm gonna start off with you if that's okay. The first question is around the strategies that organizations in Saudi Arabia, I mean, what can they do what can they adopt to increase the visibility and recognition of women leaders in health, particularly in a traditionally male-dominated field, right? When you think of healthcare, tech, etc. So what do you think organizations can do in Saudi to really promote or to increase the visibility?
Well, again, it's not only for Saudi. I think it's applied to the whole region and to the globally. After that, that's one of the things I honestly being in the both worlds here in the US and Saudi, and I felt where the woman has actually very common problems and common challenges. It's not that different when it comes, especially to workplaces and leadership and recognition. So it's not very different. You'll be amazed how I think is common. Well, again, I just have a few thoughts and I wanted to share it with you. First of all, I think we should be more aware about having more recognition program. For example, when it comes to awards, I'm only aware of 1 or 2 awards that's specific for women. That's too bad. to really highlight women in the kingdom. I think we need more of that. We need, even if they're smaller, they don't have to have money with them. It's just something, because this is, again, this is how we or women will know that we recognize even for a small successes. And it can be at a different level, you know, for junior, for mid-career, for senior, etc. As I said, I'm only aware of 1 or 2 awards. That's it in the entire kingdom, and maybe in the region. There is actually no women's specific award in excellence when it comes to different sectors. So again, and this is one thing, and having some sort of recognition programs, awards, highlighting achievement in events, etc. And then the second one is the media campaign and storytelling. As I said, I'm a very believer on storytelling and to tell the stories. We are, as a physician, I mean, you have 3 physicians today. I'm sorry for like for the 3 of us here, but we're not really good in writing stuff outside our medical field or our research. But I think the power of writing and a power of sharing story, and this is something I discovered. I don't know if you can, if people read the article I wrote actually in 2018 at Nature. It called Ask Me About My Science, Not Your Stereotyping. This article has very specific backgrounds. At the time, I mean, I wrote it really like beginning of 2017, and I had a hard time to publish it at Science. Then Nature took it. But anyway, so the time the kingdom did not allow a woman to drive, really. And it's still, you know, a moment of transition to the kingdom. And we used to have a lot of reporters coming, you know, New York Times, etc. Other athletes, they come to the kingdom. And we also had in the beginning of the Saudi Genome Project, right? Which for me was very important project. I mean, we really literally followed UK. UK was the first country, like 2012, Saudi 2013. So we're not that behind. I noticed a pattern with this journalist came. Sadly, especially the female journalist, the first thing they ask about, oh, so you don't drive? So for me, as a female researcher, the men researcher, they never ask them that question. So they all were focused on the stereotypes that they heard, and they came, even though they came for a very specific mission. And that time, and one of my friends, I remember, she's not even a doctor, said, why you don't write about it? They said, oh, people will hate me. And it's also, and then I realized it was accumulation of things about the stereotyping about Saudi women at the time was very common. And I think we got so used to it at the time that we did not even thought it's not okay to say this kind of things. So when I wrote this article, I got surprised by the amount of feedback I got from people from around the world, especially men, by the way, Dr. Hani. Actually, many of them were thanking me for highlighting the issue because they were not aware of it. And again, this kind of biases, people are not aware of it, but somebody has to speak up, and to speak up in the right media channel. So going back to your question, media channel, not only important it's only important, of course, to tell to people to reach out, to highlight stories about more. And I have to thank some media outlet. I've been working with them for the last 7 years. Majara, if you're aware of it, Majara, where they host all, you know, the Harvard business review, the MIT tech review, all this art journal in Arabic. They've been highlighting women in their outlet media, which is all over the places, but not everybody else was doing this. And then the third one, I think leadership opportunity and representation, again, actively promoting. I'm with a quota at some point, but it has to come with qualifications, of course, to promote women and to make sure that some sort of balance. We're not there yet. The entire world, I mean, look at my leadership here at Emory. I mean, finally, after how many years, 100 years, now they have the first dean who is female dean, finally. But I mean, there is no really a lot of female, even though, as we know, especially in the Arab world, 60% of STEM graduates are females. But still, they're not represented at the same level when it comes to the hospital leadership, when it comes to universities leadership, when it comes to research center leadership. Still, we're not there yet. So I think, again, this is something we should promote and work on it. And then the last thing, conferences, an opportunity to speak up. Again, encourage not only to talk between ourselves, actually to talk to the world. This is what we need. And this is one of the issues I faced with my girls when I was in Saudi. Thank you, Dr. Hani, for telling her she deserves what she wants, because that was always the question. Oh, we don't deserve this. We're not good enough. We're not ready to go. And especially, I mean, So there is this self-doubt, especially with women. They always doubt themselves. And so reinforcing how you know you deserve this, you got this, you earned this, and give them the platform to speak up. This is very important to me too, because now this is the first step. After that, they're not afraid to do anything and to ask for even promotion and go up to the ladder. And finally, I cannot stress more than about the role of mentorship and sponsorship programs. Again, this is something I think without it, I will never be where I am today without it, with the males and females mentors in my life, and still until today, I actively seek to find mentors in different areas and different to teach me new things, to guide me, to have another opinion. And you have to do it intentionally. It's one-to-one. It's not only to appear in a TV show or a thing. It actually, you have to take the time and the challenges that come to it, to follow this mentee and to be with them for years sometimes. That's my take on your question. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Malak. It resonates very well. And maybe, Dr. Hani, I'm gonna, try to cross-pollinate a little bit with the question. What do you think, international organizations such as ourselves, right? So when you think of Pfizer, what can we do? How can we collaborate with certain local institutions or local, universities, etc., to find or to foster mentorship opportunities, or any of the things that Professor Malak had mentioned? Is there something that can come top of mind whereby we could collaborate and have such opportunities for the younger generation? Or the existing generation, per se.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Luma. And I'll speak about this, and I'll speak about what you just closed with my previous discussion about my talk to you yesterday. So it's essential. It's very important that everybody collaborate on actually building the community. But what needs to be done is actually what's important. So leading by example to create condition for change. So are we creating condition for a change? How can we do that? Is it the responsibility of a single institution? Is it the responsibility of the government? Is it the responsibility of NGOs? Or it's actually the responsibility of all of the above? So creating condition for change is actually what probably will actually move the needles. And I will give you a small example that's maybe close to everybody. Princess Reem bin Bandar Al Saud, when she came to her position, she did not wait for the world to change for her. Things were actually difficult. Definitely, there was some societal norm that was actually enforced on women in Saudi Arabia. And see where we are today. So she championed, in addition to her being an ambassador, she championed a lot of things outside of her role as an ambassador to actually bring, for example, women's sport championing, many health initiatives. So the whole idea of actually opening doors and collaborating between different entities, between the government and the NGOs and the private sectors. At least I'm speaking now about Pfizer now. So in Pfizer, we wanted to encourage this. We want to be actually opening our hands to the community and say, well, we want this to happen, not only in Pfizer, by the way. This program is actually, yes, it's actually for our internal colleagues, but we really want it to be more than this. So this is why Arab International Women Forum is actually part of that, because we want to bring this idea, this concept to everybody around us. So I think it's important that we bring this collaboration and leading by example and creating condition for change. If we don't create the condition, don't wait, actually look for the change. It's not going to happen. So unless you do that, it's actually very important. I had to mention what you just said about our discussion yesterday, because we really have to make sure that we strike the balance between empowerment, full empowerment, because of gender equality, and actually capability and merits. So look at Professor Selwa. I will work for her any time of the day. She's somebody who is really capable. She showed actually the world how she does things. Same thing for Professor Malak. I'll be very happy working with her any time of the day. She's actually capable and able to do that. So the empowerment, blind empowerment, just because of gender equality, takes a lot from the work that has been done already in the past many years. So it's actually whoever is on the chair because they deserve it. This is my statement to my wife, my sisters, and my daughter. You're there because you really deserve it. It's not because of anybody likes to bring a female to the team. You're there because you deserve it, and you're going to show that you earn your position by contribution to your work on daily basis. And this is what I actually keep telling everybody around me, because you're one of them. Back to you.
Dr. Hani, first of all, thank you so much, because I know that you truly believe what you're saying and you genuinely, walk the talk. So, it takes a village, and I know that you're one of the leaders of that village. فيعطيك ألف عافية. Thank you so much for that. Professor Salwa, question for you, please. How can role models be more effectively identified and promoted within the Saudi healthcare sector to inspire and encourage young women to pursue leadership positions? أدري سؤال صعب كذا بس يعني قدها وقدود. Go for it, and we'd love to hear your perspective.
Thank you, Luma. This is the difference between my generation and Professor Malak's generation. She can identify role models. I had no role models. There wasn't a role model for me. To be honest, we are the role models because I'm one generation ahead of her. My role model was my mother, who was illiterate by force because there was no schooling in her time. Now, if you asked me this question 20 years ago, 10 years ago, I'd have, but you know what, Luma, I'm gonna concentrate on it for today. We were lucky as a family that we went to the land of the infidels. That's what my family called the United States, the land of the infidels, because we hail from Qasim, both mom and dad, and they looked at us. But dad had a vision. Dad was ahead of his time. He took us, we're 6 girls, his 5 girls, not a single boy, and my mother, who was 18 years old, and took us to the land of the infidels. So I was fortunate that I got educated there. And I was privileged to grow up and go to school in the land of the infidels then. And you have to remember, it was in the 60s where no one knew. We were called Arabs. That's what they called us. We weren't even Saudis. We were Arabs. That's what that. So anyways, I sit here now and I say to myself, how did we do it? I came back from the States, sweet 16. I will never forget it. Full bubbly, coming to Saudi Arabia, not even knowing what Saudi Arabia was, left at the age of 5 years, coming back at the age of 16. And I was so thrilled that I was coming back to my country. We're sitting in the car. We spoke no Arabic because our first language by default was English. There were no academic school, there was not the Saudi academic, nothing. We were a family that you hold in a hand. So you can imagine how I'm sitting there in the car, so excited. Who picks us up from the airport? The most educated person in our family. He's going to college because in our family, we're merchants. They didn't believe in education. Education was for the poor. So dad had actually secretly went to school, educated himself, got the scholarship without anybody, and then ends up in the land of the infidel. So I come back, we're sitting with my sisters, we're talking in English because that's all we know. And what do you think this person says? He turns around to my father, rattles something in Arabic, which at that time I didn't understand. My father turns around to me, he says, Salwa, what did you hear what he said? I said, no, Dad. He said, if these girls were men, the difference they would make in this society. That was what? I mean, the doors literally closed before they even opened. They closed. I hadn't even gone into Riyadh. We were sitting in the car going and I see the lights, and that was a turning point for me. I said to myself, I am going to be as good as this, not better, but as good as the Saudi man. So again, you have to remember it was hard. Then I graduate, I come in, I only have 2 things to go into. You either be a teacher or a doctor, and I wanted nothing. So ladies, this generation, I envy you. I wanted to represent my country. My father would say, what? What do you mean represent? He had to play his cards right. And he's like, Salwa, be a physician. Be a physician. You'll get the confidence of people. Then you'll represent your country. May God bless his soul. You know, I sit here going into medicine, excelling in medicine, because I knew nothing else. And I did represent my country. I represented the country, and this is where the role models come in. Represented my country in the September 11th, when I had to go and bridge between the two countries, again, being the role model there in the political arena, getting the first 5,000 visas for students and for patients that were kicked out because of the September 11th, then being an advisor in the Shura Council, then being somehow, I don't know, out of the blue, I'm chosen. I have no idea why. And they never looked at my gender. This is something to being the, attending physician to the late King Fahad. Again, that opened doors for females. Remember, there were no female Saudi females at that time that were really educated, that were really, so again, there comes another role model. To be honest, it was difficult. You mentioned something really very important, Professor Hani. You mentioned, things you can, when the oil came, things changed, right? You can change buildings, you can change cars, but you can't change people. Luma, you can't. It has to be an evolution. You can't have it like we're doing now in AI disrupting. It has to be an evolution, not a revolution. And that, again, had to be done slowly, and it had to be done equally. Then I get into the Shura Council. Wow, we had immunity. We were the voice of you ladies. For those of you that are driving, for those of you that can now travel without a male guardian, for those of you that have IDs, that's what we did. We were the role models for that. So again, Hannah, you mentioned something else. It's not that the government picks you and says you're a role model. It's what you do. It's what you produce. It's what you can change. But again, ladies, you don't change it from outside, never. Go into that circle, understand that circle, and fight within. If I didn't fight within, I wouldn't be where I am today. This is really very, very important. So again, ladies, you have something I never had. If I would tell you stories, which unfortunately we don't have time for, you talk about revolution. One simple story, maybe I'll try and do it in a minute. I was chosen for the best prize. They never knew it was a woman when they went to the stage. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there waiting for me to be announced, and they jumped me. I went to the authority then, and I said to him, why? And then he called the people. They said, the TV is on. There's TV and the lights are on. How can we get a female on the stage to get her certificate that I duly deserved? I said to him, turn off the TV. Dim down the lights, call me up there. And I was just a first-year resident who was a zero to if you that. I go up there, I get my certificate, I come down. 15 years later, I'm now Professor Salwa Hazza. I sit in the front. They announce the winner of the best research, 15 years, the best research project, and it's a female. And guess what, Luma? They call her up. Flashing, she shake hands. No one even shook hands with me. There wasn't even a single picture. It wasn't even allowed. We didn't have the phones at that time. And then she comes and sits next to me. I tell her, congratulations. She's like, thank you, Dr. Hassan. Congratulations. She's like, thank you, Dr. Hassan. Congratulations. Like, Dr. Hassan, what's going on? I said, you would not be able to go up there if we, as the role models, had not insisted, and went up there to get it, regardless, no lights, no TV, no photos. It's stories like this. In another story, there was a photo taken of me. By sheer coincidence, I was accompanying a doctor when I was at the King Khalid Eye Special. They took a photo. I didn't even, and they posted it on TV. Oh my God, my father and mother were threatened, saying, isn't it enough you put our girl, because I'm their girl, in medical school, interacting with men, you put her on TV? My mother was threatened. My father was threatened for months. It took them 15 years to come back to my mother and say, when will our girl come on TV? That's what I'm saying. It's endurance. It's resilience. It's being able to have that wit to say, I am going to change things within that, but it's about time. And then we have to remember, and Dr. Malek, touched on that. We as females have to work 10 times as hard. Sorry, Dr. Hashim, as you to get that role. We have to work 10 times as hard as a female to be able. But guess what? It balances out, because when we finally exceed, we're given 10 times the credit. So I always look at it. And then I hate this thing, when you say glass ceiling. I'm sorry, I don't believe in this glass ceiling. Here in Saudi Arabia, we have a mud ceiling. You are told to your face what you can do and cannot do. You're told. What's unique about the mud ceiling? I can go in and make a little hole, and I can creep out of that hole. It isn't a glass that's going to shatter. Really important. So if that door is closed, and what makes you a role model? It's failing and failing and failing. Don't be afraid of failure, and then getting up. So when you fall, but fall forward, get yourself up. It's the failing and the falling that really makes you a role model. It's not about you being born a role model. It's your career. It's the failures, the obstructions. Endure it. I think this is really very important. People think right now, Salwa al-Hazzab, that I wake up in the morning and I have no challenges. Wallahi, someone told me, Ya haddaki doctora. Wallahi, every morning I wake up, and if there is not a challenge from the different entities, because now I'm disrupting the health system, I'm stepping on people's toes, they don't like it, people don't want to get out of their comfort zone. Wallahi, when I wake up in the morning and I don't find a challenge, I look around, I'm like, where is Salwa? Where am I? Because if there is not a challenge, believe me, we would not be where we are today. So again, in closure, what I'm trying to say is, please, ladies, you have things at your fingertips, which we dreamt about. You have openings, which we were only could be doctors or teachers. You want something, it's the computers there. We had to wait in the library 3 weeks to get 2 or 3 research papers from Oxford University. We had to even pay for it, but had to wait. Ladies, embrace it. Ladies, flourish with it. Ladies, we envy you. بس نغبطكم. We do it in a very nice way. Take what you have, work with it, and remember what we, as the first generation, did. You can be better than us. Because why? The government now has opened doors for you. For 35 years, everything I did, I always had to look over my back, thinking, am I going to be, scolded? That's what we did. So ladies, this is your time. This is your time to shine. I envy you because now your role models are everywhere, which I did not have. So in closing, thank you, AIWF, for giving me the chance to at least tell you of the challenges we had. But if it was not for these challenges that we had to live through, I would not, me and my other colleagues at my same level, we would not be where we are today. So thank you. I say it, and I say it in all my heart. Thank you, MBS. Thank you for allowing me to live this era where I worked so hard in the 60s, 70s, 80s, to be able to see my daughter, not only to drive a car, but to have a leading position, to see her friends being at the forefront, where we were always kept in the back, but we endured it, knowing that we were not doing it for us. I never thought about me. I always thought we're doing it for the generation to come, and we did it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Salwa. And we're over time, but I really couldn't stop. It was absolutely amazing, extremely inspiring. There are Q&As, but we're not going to go through them. I'm really, really sorry, just to respect the time of our dear physicians and professors. I mean, they've got jobs to do, but we will shoot them forward if there's anything that we think we could not answer ourselves, if that's okay with you panelists. On behalf of Pfizer, on behalf of AIWF, thank you so much for every single thing that you've said. And I love the mud ceiling, concept. That was very new to me. I will remember it. يعطيكم ألف عافية, and we look forward to the upcoming sessions. And I hope to see you soon, Professor Malak, here in Riyadh, and hosting you and bringing you home. Professor سلوى, شكرا جزيلا. ودكتور هاني, نشوفك عاد بكرة في المكتب إذا قدرنا. فيعطيك ألف عافية. Thank you. and see you guys. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very
مع
much.
السلامة.
Thank you
شكراً.
very much. الله يديكم
شكراً.
العافية. ألف
خليكم.
شكر
مع
سلوى
السلامة.
وبس الملاك.
Thank you. Bye.
سلام.
مع السلامة. يعطيكم العافية.